Hi and welcome to my channel. This is the third video in the AWS security audit series, and if you haven't checked the last video, it was about IAM security best practices, which should be one of the first steps in securing your AWS environment. So do check it out on and leave your comments on it. Now moving on to today's video. So it is about AWS S3 security audit, and I'll be sharing 5 best practices on how you can safeguard your S3 service in your AWS environment. So all the 5 security best practices will include their introduction. Along with that, I'll share the steps to audit each test case, and then I'll move on to the mitigation of the misconfigurations. So let's dive right in. The first test case is ensuring that block public access is configured on S3 bucket. So Amazon S3 provides block public access in bucket settings and block public access in account settings to help you manage public access to Amazon S3 resources. By default, S3 bucket and objects are created with public access disabled. However, an IAM principal with sufficient S3 permissions can enable public access at the bucket or the object level. While enabled, block public access prevents an individual bucket and its contained objects from becoming publicly accessible. To check this configuration, there are two methods. One is from the AWS Management Console and second one from the command line. To the command line, we can use the AWS CLI utility to check the same. So let's first check from the console. So here I am in the console, logged in as the security audit user. If you don't know about the permissions to grant to a security audit user, please check the last two videos and you will find how to configure this user. So moving on, we need to navigate to the S3 service. So you can just simply search S3 from the search bar and select the S3 service. So if you don't get this page, you can select buckets from the left pan and then you will see the list of the buckets. So I have one my test bucket for audit configured. So I'll select this one. Since I am a security audit user and I have limited permissions, I don't have the permission to list the objects of this bucket. So moving on, I'll go to the permissions tab, and here I'll find the block public access setting. So this will ensure that my bucket is publicly not accessible. So if you see here, block all public access is set to on. This shows that I am compliant to the particular test case. Now let's check the same from the CLI. So I am using my Kali VM for uh, testing the configuration from the CLI. So if you have not already, please configure your uh, profile in AWS CLI. You can do so by using this command AWS configure, and then you can give a profile name so you have it in future for all your commands that you run. So I'll just press enter. Here you'll have to enter your access key ID, which I've already done. So I'll just press enter, and then you'll have to paste your secret access key here and then press enter. You, if you wish to, you can select a default region. If not, you can just press enter. Now I'll use the command AWS S3 ls to list all the S3 buckets in my AWS environment. And do not forget to mention your profile, otherwise you might get into errors. I'll press enter, and here I've got my test bucket for audit. So next step would be to use S3 API utility in AWS and get public access block setting, because that's what we want to check. And then we can mention our bucket name. So I'll just copy the bucket name from here, paste it and press enter. But yeah, I have to mention the profile name. So let's do it. Yeah, I'm good to go. So if you see here, public access block configuration, block public access is set to true. This is what we confirmed from the console as well. Now let's move on to the remediation. So I'm back in the AWS console for the remediation, but now I'm logged in as the administrator user. So the user which has admin access, and we can change the configurations. So first I'll move on to the S3 settings, S3 service. Then I'll select the S3 bucket. I'll go on to permissions, and here if your block all public access setting is not already set to on, you just simply edit it, and then you'll have the different options which you can go through and select. So I'll just select block all public access, and then I can simply save changes. Then you'll be asked to type in confirm. So here we have it, and then you can press confirm and the changes will be done. So now I have block all public access on as expected. Moving on to the second test case, which is ensure MFA delete is enabled on S3 buckets. So adding MFA delete to an S3 bucket requires additional authentication when you change the version state of your bucket, or you delete an object version, adding another layer of security in the event your security credentials are compromised or unauthorized access is granted. So the MFA delete configuration can also be checked from the console as well as from the AWS CLI. So to check it from the console, you need to navigate to the Amazon S3 service, and then you need to select the bucket you need to check the configuration for. And then under properties, you will find the MFA delete option. So let's go ahead and check it from the console. To perform the check, I'm logged in as the security audit user in the AWS console. Now I'll go ahead and move to the S3 service. I need to check the configuration for my test bucket for audit. So I'll select this one. I'll go to properties, and here you can check multi-factor authentication delete. So this is set to disabled. That implies that I'm not in compliance with this configuration. Now let's check the same from the CLI. So to do so, I'll first list all the S3 buckets in my AWS environment. So here is the bucket I want to check the configuration for. So I'll use the command get bucket versioning, and then I'll mention the bucket name. Uh, First, let me put the profile name. So yeah, now I can press enter. That's strange. I haven't got any output. Let me retry. All right, so I just checked, and if even you encounter this behavior, like if you are not getting any output back, uh, so this will indicate that there is no bucket versioning set only. So that's why you're not getting any output. So that was the same thing we checked from the console. Now let's move on to the remediation. So this remediation to enable the MFA delete configuration can't be done from the console. The option to configure it is from the AWS CLI. So here is the simple command you can use to mitigate the misconfiguration. So again, we are utilizing S3 API, and then we will mention the bucket name on which we want to put the bucket versioning. Next, we need to mention the versioning configuration. In this case, you can omit this and you can just use MFA delete equal to enabled, and then you'll have to add the MFA device serial number. Now the MFA device can be added using the AWS console, and if you don't already know how to configure it, you can check it out in my last video. So the third test case is about bucket versioning. So you need to ensure that bucket versioning is enabled for S3 object. Now, versioning and MFA delete go hand in hand. As you might have seen in the last test case, all the configurations were being done together, but they are slightly different. So, versioning in S3 buckets is crucial for protecting against accidental deletions and overrides by keeping multiple versions of each object. So, as the name suggests, we are keeping multiple versions of each of the object that is being uploaded to Amazon S3. So this will enable easy recovery and data integrity. I'm logged in as a security audit user and I'm in the S3 service. I'm listing the buckets, and then to check the versioning, I'll go to properties, and here if you see the bucket versioning is enabled. Now just in case if it was disabled, we could have done it from the console itself. So after checking it from the CLI as well, let's see how to configure it. To check it from the CLI, it's the same command as we used before, which is AWS S3 API get bucket versioning, then the bucket name and the profile. Let's press enter. This time I am getting the output because I enabled the bucket versioning. So the status is enabled. And now let's see if it was the case like before. What if I was not getting any output, or what if the versioning was not enabled? How could I have enabled it? So while logged in with admin access, I'll list the buckets in a S3 service. I'll select the bucket I want to audit. Then I'll go to properties, and here I'll find the bucket versioning section. I'll edit it, and then there are two options, either suspense or either enable. So I want to enable the bucket versioning for my objects in the S3 bucket. So I'll press enable and I'll click on save changes. And here we can see that the bucket versioning is enabled. The fourth test case says to ensure S3 bucket logging is enabled. Now, ensuring that service access logging feature is enabled for your Amazon S3 buckets is in order to track access requests useful for security and access audits. So by default, service access logging is not enabled for S3 buckets. So you need to ensure that you enable it after configuring your S3 buckets. To check the access logs from the console, you need to navigate to the S3 service, then click on buckets, then select the bucket you want to check it for. I'll go to properties. Now, if you scroll down, you'll find this option of server access login. Currently, it is set to disabled. That means I'm not compliant. Now, to remediate this issue from the console, I'll just move to the administrator session. So here I have admin access. Select buckets. Then I'll go to properties. Here I'll find the edit option. So I'll edit it. Then you need to set if you want to disable or enable the server access login. I'll select enable. Then you'll have to configure another S3 bucket to send the logs of this particular S3 bucket. So you can click browse S3 and then you can select a S3 bucket to send the logs to. And then you'll have the key format you can choose from both of these. So after you are done selecting all these settings, you can just click save changes and then you'll have your S3 bucket access login configured. Moving on to the last test case, ensure all data in Amazon S3 has been discovered, classified, and secured when required. So S3 buckets can contain sensitive data that for security purposes should be discovered, monitored, classified, and protected. Now you have the option to use third-party services for the same. But Amazon offers Amazon Messy service, so which can, along with the third party tools, can automatically provide an inventory of these Amazon S3 buckets. So let's see how this Amazon Messy looks like. So here in the console, I have the Amazon Messy service open, and if you are interested, Amazon offers a 30-day free trial for the same, so you can get started. Do ensure that you know that this is not a free service. Pricing is configured for this, so here is the different pricing options you can find, and here are the benefits and features, so you can check this service out and you can get into compliance with configuring Amazon Messy. This brings us to the end of the video. Now, if you have been liking the AWS security audit series, do let me know in the comments and I'll continue these videos. If you are interested in any particular services, if you want to know security best practices of any particular AWS services, do let me know in the comments and I'll make sure I create videos for the same. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.